Right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Whenever we think of the 1880s American West, our minds almost immediately go to those classic Hollywood stereotypes, right? Gunfights, outlaws, tumbleweeds rolling down a dusty street. But today, we're stripping all of that away. We're going to explore the gritty, highly entrepreneurial, and just endlessly fascinating reality of the actual frontier. And we're going to do it by walking through the life of one seriously adaptable group of pioneers, the Devier Smith family. To really get a feel for this, I need you to picture a very specific environment. We're zooming right into the microcosm of McCook, Nebraska. The loudest sounds you'd hear there aren't dramatic movie soundtracks. Instead, it's the blaring whistles of incoming trains, maybe the slightly out-of-tune plinking of parlor pianos, and the heavy industrial bustling of a frontier livery stable. By looking closely at this one town and this one family, we're going to see exactly how ordinary pioneers survived, how they hustled, and how they built communities quite literally from the ground up.
Welcome to McCook, a frontier town.
So the year is 1886, and McCook is this young railroad hub, barely 4 years old, sitting out there in the semi-arid Republican River Valley. Now, Devier Smith didn't just magically appear there. Bedford, Iowa in 1870, Kansas in 1878, and finally arriving in McCook in 1885. This relentless westward movement across 6 different states, it completely showcases the highly adaptable nature you absolutely needed to be a successful frontier settler. You didn't just sit around and wait for an opportunity, you packed up your wagon and you chased it down.
When they finally arrived, the real engine of the family's economic survival became the Blue Front livery stable. Now, a livery stable was so much more than just a barn. Think of it as a complex operation, basically a 19th century mashup of a horse hotel, a rental agency, a repair shop, and a local social hub, all rolled into one. Devier and his son positioned this business perfectly, right next to the New Burlington, Missouri Railroad, basically to capture every single ounce of passing trade.
Section 2. The original side hustlers. What's wild here is that the Smiths were essentially pioneers of the modern gig economy, way before we ever had a catchy name for it. You see, to survive the volatile frontier, where one single economic shock could mean instant financial ruin, the entire family pitched in with multiple distinct revenue streams. So you've got the livery stable, sure, but then you also have Abby's custom millinery shop making hats. Daughters Della and Maudie are giving piano lessons. They've got a whole second cattle ranch down in Cheyenne County, Kansas. And my absolute favorite, Devier selling his own hair tonic. They basically built an economic fortress by never relying on just one thing. Devier was literally always looking for a competitive edge. Get this. In December 1885, he actually secured a patent for a harness rack. This wasn't some vanity project from an idle tinkerer either. It was a highly practical solution by a working businessman who recognized a genuine operational challenge. How do you efficiently store heavy, expensive livery harness? He took the time and the considerable expense to patent this thing, which really shows a mind constantly churning with commercial potential. But hey, the men were definitely not the only ones driving this family forward. The women's enterprises carried dual power. Abby ran a highly skilled millinery trade, while Della and Maidie taught music. The really crucial takeaway here is that these businesses didn't just provide an economic cushion, they established vital social standing. Abby was building informal networks and trust among the frontier women, while the girls' piano lessons integrated the Smiths straight into respectable, middle-class parlor society in a town full of absolute strangers. And then there's the price tag on that hair tonic. Adding to this incredibly diverse portfolio was Devier's mysterious concoction, which he sold for an exorbitant $2 a bottle. Now, to put that into perspective for you, at this time, daily farm labor paid exactly $1. That means a farmhand would have to work 2 full, back-breaking days in the sun just to afford a single bottle of Devier's tonic. Wow. I just love this fantastic detail because it reveals Devier's absolute undeniable hustle. Just picture it. A bearded, top-hatted livery operator pressing bottles of expensive hair tonic onto his customers from behind a dusty stable counter. It brings a tremendous bit of humanity and honestly some humor to the harsh prairie environment. The guy clearly had a fundamental enjoyment of the commercial transaction. Section 3. The hidden hardships. Of course, behind all this energetic commercial success, there was a much darker reality. A really stark contrast between public optimism and private grief. On the surface, the Smiths are living in a booming regional railroad hub, experiencing unusually good rainfall. Everything is looking up. But privately, Like so many frontier families, they carried a silent, heavy grief. They had endured the heartbreaking loss of two infant daughters, Aggie and Ludi, both buried at age 2 in the states they had previously lived in. They had to carry that invisible weight right alongside their public drive to succeed. And the work itself was punishing. Managing that second cattle ranch 200 miles away in Kansas meant Devier endured severe isolation. Sometimes there was literally not a roof to cover them. That distance meant days of travel by horse and wagon, totally separated from his family. During these incredibly long stretches, Devier found comfort only in his Bible, facing a level of physical hardship and loneliness that is honestly really hard for us to comprehend today. Ultimately, that kind of lifestyle exacts a heavy toll. Devier passed away from heart disease at just 52 years old in 1894. You have to remember, this is an era long before modern cardiovascular medicine. The relentless outdoor labor, the irregular meals of a man constantly on the move, and the sheer unyielding stress of running 2 businesses across 2 states, it simply destroyed his health.
Section 4. Building a Prairie Community.
Yet despite the grueling work and that hidden grief, the family actively cultivated a surprisingly rich social world. You quickly realize looking at them that culture was built almost as quickly as shelter in the Old West. They had the Methodist Episcopal Church for spiritual and social grounding. Devier joined the Ancient Order of United Workmen, this massive fraternal lodge that offered instant brotherhood, mutual aid, and crucial life insurance. There was the town opera house for traveling shows. And of course, the livery stable counter itself acted as an informal newspaper office, a place where the men gathered to talk politics, crops, and weather. But the true heart of their domestic life was live performance. Way before radio or phonographs or streaming, live performance was the whole shebang. Because Della and Maddie were talented music teachers, the Smith home became the natural center of McCook's middle-class life. Neighbors would physically gather in their parlor to sing Stephen Foster ballads around the piano. It was this intimate, shared community experience that literally held the town together.
Section 5. The Frontier Spirit. Now, it's really important to frame exactly when all this was happening. The year 1886 captured a fleeting moment of optimism. The devastating droughts of the late 1880s hadn't hit yet, and the deadly schoolchildren's blizzard of 1888 was still 2 years away. The big takeaway here is that Devier and Abby's success wasn't accidental, and it definitely wasn't just good weather. Survival wasn't guaranteed by the land, it was guaranteed by sheer adaptability, diversified income, and a relentless work ethic. These were experienced pioneers who calculated their strategy to weather economic and literal storms. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. If you had to pack up today and build a life in a totally unfamiliar world, what kind of community would you build? The Smiths' combination of multiple side hustles, adaptability, and deep community ties isn't just some dusty history lesson. It reflects the exact same resilience and strategic networking we rely on right now in our own rapidly changing world. Thanks so much for diving into this frontier hustle with me. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next one.